Hello and welcome to Sound Strategic. I'm Meia Nouwens. In today's episode, we'll be turning to the maritime domain and looking in particular at recent developments in the UK's Royal Navy. On the 22nd of May, HMS Queen Elizabeth, the UK's newest aircraft carrier, sailed from Portsmouth on her maiden operational deployment at the heart of the UK's Carrier Strike Group in 2021. The Commodore of the Carrier Strike Group, Steve Morehouse, called it the most important peacetime deployment in a generation. The Carrier Strike Group will visit 40 nations over the next 7.5 months, including in the Western Pacific. And the deployment forms part of the UK government's Indo-Pacific tilt, as set out in its recently published integrated review of security, defense, and development and foreign policy. But how does the Royal Navy fit into this wider strategy? And with its limited resources, how prominent will the Royal Navy's Indo-Pacific presence be in the near future? Joining me to discuss all of this is Nick Childs, Senior Fellow for Naval Forces and Maritime Security at the IISS in London. Nick is responsible for the Institute's analysis of naval forces and maritime security and for the data on sea power capabilities published in the IISS's Military Balance book. His particular expertise lies in the study of the naval forces of Russia, the US, China, and the United Kingdom, as well as naval and maritime policy and strategy. His recent work has looked at the aircraft carrier capabilities and submarine and subsurface warfare developments around the world. Before joining IISS, Nick worked for the BBC for more than 3 decades, most recently as World Affairs correspondent, but also their defense and Pentagon correspondent. Welcome back on the show, Nick.
Meia, it's very good to be back and talking to you.
So, Nick, you recently hosted the Royal Navy's first Sea Lord Sea Power Conference at the IISS, at which the Secretary of State for Defense, Ben Wallace, and the First Sea Lord, Tony Ratikin, both spoke about the importance of the Carrier Strike Group deployment. Why is this deployment so important to the UK?
Well, I think there are a number of reasons, Meia, for that. And one of them is the fact that this capability, this new regeneration of the Royal Navy and the UK's aircraft carrier capability has been a long time in the making. It's been a 20-year project, and it was overall an attempt to step back up the strategic ladder in terms of being able to project maritime-based power globally, and that's what we're seeing. It happens to come at a particularly important time, a watershed moment in lots of ways, both in terms of global geopolitics and the intensification of global competition, which has a very maritime flavor to it in many ways, but also a watershed moment for the UK as it reshapes its role in the world post-Brexit, sort of looking out more to the far horizons again and having a global perspective. So all of those things, I think, have come together with this deployment setting out to the Indo-Pacific region and back. And it's very emblematic in that sense of showing the UK's re-engagement, really, and tilt, as you say, towards the Indo-Pacific in a significant way, being able to show that the UK can deploy a significant maritime capability into the region to support what the UK sees as its own interests, but also its values, but also to help build partnerships. And I think that will be one of the elements and the messaging that you will see during the deployment is that this is about engaging with the region, showing a capability that can be deployed and others can interact with over a period of time.
Right, and on the issue of partnerships, as you mentioned, the integrated review makes specific mention of this and states that the Carrier Strike Group, in particular, will help the government deepen its diplomatic and prosperity links with allies and partners around the world. How important do you think the UK's gunboat diplomacy is at the moment? And specifically to the Indo-Pacific region, what do you think the UK is hoping to achieve with this?
Well, I think it's going to unfold at a number of levels. The Carrier Strike Group deployment is, as I say, very emblematic and receiving a lot of attention. And we shall see that over the period there will no doubt be other carrier deployments into the region in the future. But one of the key aspects of, I think, the maritime element of the UK's Indo-Pacific tilt is that it's going to be a combination of, if you like, the wow factor of showing a real capability periodically that can be deployed and that can fit into to partnerships with others in the region. But over the longer term, you'll also see the Royal Navy and the UK in a maritime sense being deployed more persistently at a lower level in order to try and maintain a commitment to the region. So it's those two things that are coming together. The challenge, really, particularly in a world in which we're living at the moment, and as it is evolving, where the maritime domain is no longer the sort of benign superhighway to project power, but is a contested environment in itself. It's getting the balance right between significant pulses of capability, if you like, and a more persistent and committed level of capability. The Royal Navy, the UK navies generally can't do it all the time, so they have to balance how they operate, what level of persistence, but also at what level of credibility they can maintain a presence. And so I think we'll see those two things unfolding over time. And clearly a part of that is also connecting with and partnering with and engaging with other nations in the region as well.
So who do you think that the UK, when it talks about strengthening partnerships, who do they mean? Who is the UK looking to partner with to strengthen its relationships with in the Indo-Pacific region? I mean, we know that the UK has a strong relationship, particularly in the maritime domain, with countries like Japan. Is that who they're referring to, or is there an interest in broadening the partnerships that the UK currently has?
I think it'll be a trickle effect, really, Meia. I mean, there are a number of boxes that are going to be ticked as far as the UK is concerned. One clearly is the fact that the UK has significant defence and security arrangements, the Five Powers defence arrangements with key players in the region. So it'll be a sense of re-engaging and providing real capability and acknowledging relationships there. There is an extremely close and significant relationship with the United States, and part of that is seen in the fact that this carrier deployment is taking place with a significant amount of United States engagement and support. Part of the air wing of the carrier, HMS Queen Elizabeth, is an American squadron, a US Marine Corps squadron, alongside a UK squadron of F-35B. So that's an important symbol, I think, of what the UK and the United States would call the interchangeability of capabilities that they can demonstrate, and the integration of capabilities that they can demonstrate. There's a US destroyer going along with the carrier strike group as well as a Dutch destroyer that's also part of this sense of providing partnerships and demonstrating partnerships, but also the convening capabilities that the UK can provide with a carrier strike group that allows others to join a sort of gather round capability. So there are those elements to it, and then there are those other key players that the UK is developing significantly closer relationships with, and Japan is one of those. I think developments and to some extent also increased cooperation and future cooperation with the likes of South Korea are also on on the cards. But as you say, there are multiple aim points in all this, and that is one of the values of maritime power that you'll be seeing, I think, demonstrated with the carrier strike group, is that although it's a significant concentration of forces, ships can move, ships can disperse, groups can disperse as well. So there will be many different prongs to this deployment over the period that it unfolds.
What do you think for the view from the region is? Do countries like Japan view the carrier strike group and this idea of persistent engagement that we've heard mentioned multiple times over the course of the first Sea Lords Conference? Do they view that as helpful or just as signaling a political symbol of the UK's commitment to the region? Is this practical or just symbolic?
I think that's a question that is being asked. I'm sure that is the case, and one of the issues, I think, is how it will all unfold. I think as far as the region is concerned, there's a bit of a sense, particularly from the likes of the US, Japan, Australia, that there is plenty on the defence and security plate, including in the maritime sphere, in the region. It is a tough neighborhood. It's getting tougher. And therefore, support, partnering, and so on and so forth is welcome. But it's welcome if it is emblematic of an enduring commitment and an enduring relationship out there. So I think that there are the two elements of that. There is the welcoming of what will be a significant capability that will add to the maritime capabilities that are out there, and will also be part of what one would describe as potentially the development of future networks. There are, Japan, South Korea are all, for example, contemplating developing maritime aviation capabilities, not unlike those that are embodied in HMS Queen Elizabeth with the F-35B aircraft on board. So those will be important parts of the relationship, no doubt, down the years. But it is that question of what comes next, and clearly at a certain level, the UK is planning to engage on a more persistent basis, not with aircraft carriers, but with a more persistent deployment of more modest units, initially offshore patrol vessels, admittedly the most modern and capable that they have. In the longer run, frigates as well, but also the introduction of other elements, including this new littoral response group, which is a more modest than the carrier group capability, but that will have considerable flexibility. So if those things all come together, I think that is what people are looking for in the region to see sustained. The issues, as far as the UK is concerned, will be the question of, as I say, coming back to that balance of can you sustain all this in a way that is credible, that doesn't represent too much in terms of opportunity costs as far as finite resources are concerned, and multiple other requirements and challenges as well. But also, does it measure up to what is the declared ambition? And I think that is the question. It's one thing to be persistently deployed and available and partnering at a certain level, at certain levels of maritime security operations, capacity building, that sort of thing. That's all valuable and symbolic of a commitment. But there is also the implications that that there will be a commitment to deploy, to be able to back up the declared ambitions to support the rules-based order and support norms and rules as well. So it's when those tests come that I think will be significant.
I mean, speaking of tests, and we've already spoken about the rule from the view from the region. I wanted to ask a little bit. Of course, the elephant of the room here is China. We've seen in the past that China has viewed the Royal Navy sailing through the South China Sea as a provocation, it called it, following a freedom of navigation exercise by HMS Albion in 2018. The UK's bilateral relationship with China cooled off slightly. And both the First Sea Lord and the Secretary of State, Ben Wallace, have emphasized that the Royal Navy intends to be confident but not confrontational. Um, what do you think this means, and how do you think China will react based on past experiences, which I know you followed very closely in your work here?
I think it's an important question, and I think we shall have to see to some extent. But there is no doubt that China, certainly in some of the signalling that we've seen, has not been overly excited about the idea of the carrier strike group deploying to the region and questioning the reasons behind that, and clearly, part of the issues and the friction points are around the sorts of things that the carrier strike group will aim to demonstrate freedom of navigation and that sort of thing. So I think there is a potential there, and I'm sure that is in the minds of and has been in the planning processes of the UK naval leadership and in terms of engaging with allies in the region, that there is almost certainly likely to be a considerable amount of attention from Beijing on how group will deploy, and there is potentially going to be some sort of reaction, some sort of close scrutiny, shall we say, of the carrier group as it transits around the region. But how that exactly will unfold, I think, will depend to some extent on events, depend on the temperature of the global situation as the carrier and its group deploys around, and just what the posture will be of the group. As I say, the ships can operate together, can operate separately. Just how they will deploy at any particular point during the mission out to the region, with whom I think will all be part of the you talked about gunboat diplomacy, the maritime defence engagement dance that we will probably see unfold over the next 7.5 months.
I like how you described that more than how I described it. With regards to what the Royal Navy can actually offer to the region, aside from gunboat diplomacy, what do you think the Royal Navy's strengths really are here? In particular, the region, yes, faces many challenges in the maritime domain, rather. Um, but these all operate or significantly operate, I think, below the threshold of conflict. Where do you think the Royal Navy can play a role in helping small and medium powers manage or push back on some of the gray zone threats that they face?
Well, I think one of the things that certainly Royal Navy admirals would argue is that they have the Royal Navy is one of the few navies that can deploy globally and has a significant range of capabilities that it can offer. Some of them fairly unique, or at least involve membership of some fairly exclusive clubs, and global carrier deployments are right at the top there, nuclear submarine deployments, that sort of thing. So all of those things potentially are of value in different ways to different partners in the region as kind of key capabilities that make a difference at certain levels. In terms of the maritime security issues that you talk about, again, the Royal Navy has a considerable amount of experience deploying globally, basically down the years, as far as many deployments are concerned, many of them involving maritime security issues. There is a significant amount of experience, training, skills, capabilities that the Royal Navy can bring to bear, and will do so. I think you'll see that with the deployment of the OPVs and then subsequently frigates as well. Also the Littoral response group that will be set up in the region in the next few years as well, and deploy around the region. So those levels of training and skills and some key capabilities will, I think, all be valuable. But I think there is also value for the Royal Navy in being in that region, and for the UK as well. And I think one of the messages that came out of the First Sea Lords Sea Power Conference, not just from the UK admirals, but from many of the practitioners and officials from other key navies, the United States Navy, the French Navy, the Indian Navy. We had senior representatives of all of those. Is that it is the sort of multifarious nature of the challenges in a geostrategic context, but in a maritime context as well. The fact that they are disparate. Yes, we focus a lot on the Indo-Pacific region, but the maritime challenges are themselves global, and occur in the NATO environment as well, with a focus on Russia and what Russia's activities are taking place around the rim of Africa, in the Middle East, in the Indian Ocean. And a key to being able to understand and respond effectively to those issues is being there, having local knowledge, maritime awareness, particularly for these issues that come in what we call the grey zone and the sub-threshold levels, where it is going to be knowledge, understanding, visibility of what is going on, and therefore an ability to be able to respond in an effective way. That will be key. And so being there in some way, shape or form, having local knowledge is important as far as the UK is concerned, with its global outlook and its sense of global interests.
You've mentioned it a couple of times now, this Littoral Response Group. I know that the UK's Defence Command paper made specific mention of this, stating that the UK will deploy a Littoral Response Group to the Indo-Pacific region in 2023. Now, we're not all maritime domain experts here or naval power experts. So what does this mean, and where do you think it would likely be based if this is a permanent or persistent presence in the Indo-Pacific region? And in particular, how would this smaller grouping, rather than a large carrier strike group, support the UK's interests in the region specifically? What would its role be?
Well, I think it will be a more modest group, but it will be a very flexible group. I think that is the formula, and it's a formula that others are looking at as well. The United States, I think, of essentially a vessel that is, if you like, a toolbox of capabilities. Will have an embarked force of Royal Marines, probably a relatively small but capable force. Will probably have other supporting capabilities as well, and that will, at a lower level than the carrier strike group, be able to engage in a number of activities, and that may well be in the maritime security realm. It may well be in what is in the Indo-Pacific region, I think, a capability of increasing strategic value, and that is in the humanitarian assistance and disaster relief role. But also, a group like that is a very good focus point for being able to carry out capacity building, capability building missions and assistance as well. So I think that is what it will be as it unfolds, and the Navy's experimenting with how that will develop right now. And as far as its future capabilities are concerned, I think those are where the focus will be as far as the Littoral Response Group is concerned. And I think it will have a fairly roving brief as well, and as its name implies, it will be responsive to demands as they unfold.
Now, both the Integrated Review and the Defense Command paper talked about the Indo-Pacific region as an important area of focus for the UK. But of course, on the other hand, they also emphasize the UK's unwavering commitment to the Euro-Atlantic area. And you've already mentioned the challenges, for example, by an increasingly assertive and aggressive Russia. So how is the UK, and in particular the Royal Navy, going to balance these two commitments? Does it have the resources to even do so effectively, do you think?
I think that is one of the questions that keeps coming back as far as the UK's ambitions as set out in the Integrated Review and the Defence Command paper are concerned. It keeps coming back. Does it all add up? It feels to some extent, in terms of the narrative, as if it's a case of doing everything, an Indo-Pacific tilt, and yet, as you say, a sense that NATO is very much at the core of immediate concerns and capability and strategic requirements. And of course, you have it in if you like, in the context of the Carrier Strike Group, which is both being portrayed and paraded as emblematic of global Britain being out there and being engaged, not least in the Indo-Pacific region, and having a capability that can deploy with significance into the region, and yet at the same time it is permanently committed to NATO. And now the response of the First Sea Lords, that sort of question, is it does add up because ships move. That is one of their great values strategically, is that you can deploy them between theaters fairly rapidly in terms of a significant capability, and that is one of their virtues, and that is true. It is also an issue in terms of reassurance as far as commitments are concerned, because it's one thing to reassure people in the Indo-Pacific region of a commitment by deploying a carrier strike group, but if you can move it just as quickly, then that slightly undermines it. So again, it's back to that balance, and it's also a question of, yes, you can move these capabilities fairly quickly, but if you have events unfolding simultaneously, then that presents a problem. Even the most capable ships these days, even with the new technologies that they have, can only be in one place at one time. So I think that law of physics still applies. So the response to that, to some extent, is that you must look at all these in the round over time, and it's not even just naval forces, it's not even just military capabilities as far as the UK's new posture is concerned, and the Defence Secretary made this point as well. It's all the other levers of government that act over time. The key in terms of the premium value, I suppose, to some extent, in making it all add up, is being able to have the integrated approach, the domain knowledge, the regional knowledge, that you can judge as best possible when are the good moments to apply a bit more presence, to redeploy a carrier into the region, and that is part of that judgment call that is going to have to be made over time, and we'll see if it does add up, over the difference between the lower level persistent presence and commitment that we see, and the pulsing, as the term was used, the pulsing of capabilities at certain times to be most telling as far as the UK's ability to provide leverage is concerned. But the other enduring message from the CPAC conference, from frankly the US Navy downwards, which is frankly the only really global Navy in terms of deployment now. There are navies that have global deployment capabilities, but the US Navy remains the only global Navy. But even the US Navy can't be everywhere all at once. So that's when it comes back to these questions of partnerships, and having partnerships you can trust, being able to align those deployments, those demands, so that there is a persistent presence, across the spectrum at a certain level.
I want to give you one last opportunity to highlight what you thought was the most interesting or illuminating outcome of the first Sea Lord Sea Power Conference. We covered a lot of ground, of course, from the importance of the maritime domain in the competitive age, the role of the ability to innovate in this area technologically, the economic drivers of maritime power, and of course, global Britain in the future. So what do you think is the one main takeaway from this conference that you found the most interesting?
Well, I think it's very much that the maritime domain is back as a contested space. Much of the post-Cold War world, as it unfolded, had the maritime domain as an uncontested highway, really, for the projection of mainly Western power. We're not in that space anymore. And in many ways, the main friction points of particularly state-based competition are at sea now, whether it's the South or East China Seas, or the North Atlantic, or the waters around Europe, the Baltic, the Black Sea, potentially the high Northeast and Mediterranean. So that makes the maritime very much a focus of concern and priority. But also maritime forces, I think, have been shown to be very flexible in terms of being able to be hosts for a whole range of responses. The issues and the concerns are over those key areas that are challenging, and that is being able to respond to those sub-threshold gray zones, how you do that, and that is down to being present, being able to understand what is going on, being able to illuminate what is going on, but also being able, from your intelligence and analysis, to calibrate responses such that you can credibly, at the very least, anticipate and to some extent also deter, challenges. And that is down to information, that is down to being able to spotlight and highlight what is going on. But it's also, as I say, down to this question of partnerships as well, being able together to be able to cover the waterfront, if you like. And I think those are the key takeaways that I took away from the conference.
Nick, thank you so much for your insightful thoughts on this topic, and for hosting such an excellent conference. Of course, I hope to have you back on the podcast again soon.
Meia, it's been great to talk to you. Thanks very much for having me.
And thank you all for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you happen to miss the first Sea Lord Sea Power Conference, which the IISS and Nick hosted on the 19th of May, you can still find all the recordings of the keynote speeches and plenary sessions on the IISS website. Please do follow, rate, and subscribe to Sound Strategic wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and to keep up to date with all the latest episodes. And for more in-depth analysis of the key international security and defense issues from around the world, be sure to follow the IISS on Twitter, LinkedIn, or visit the IISS website. Thank you, and see you next time.